Great to talk to you. It's a real pleasure having you here.
Thank, thank you.
This is your own home studio where you are?
It is, yeah. This is my my little abode there. Got a Pro Tools system and loads of guitar amplifiers and a lot of effects pedals.
Okay, yeah, later I will ask you some a little bit of that. Okay, congratulations for this new album you're gonna release soon with Thorsten and also with Alex on drums. Well, first of all, I love the album, the sounds. It sounds amazing, and I was wondering with all these huge amounts of synths and guitar textures in the album that they are so full and it doesn't seem so easy to do. So I would like to know how was the process of writing music and recording it, if you can explain me.
Um, yeah, with the first session, well, I spoke to Thorsten after a Marillion concert in Berlin on the Fear Tour at the end of 2018. We had the idea to try working together. I flew to Berlin, I think it was February of 2019, just for a couple of days with my guitar and a pedal board. And we kind of jammed around for a couple of days, and there was some interesting things there. And then Thorsten had a solo show in London the next year. And we decided to do a day or an afternoon really, of jamming, improvising at the Marillion studio at the Racket Club, just north of Aylesbury. So, which is where, if you see some of the photos, so they're from that first proper session we did. And yeah, it went incredibly well. It was obvious that there was a lot of common ground between us. We shared a lot of the same influences. I'd listened to Tangerine Dream when I was sort of 16, 17 with the Stratosphere and Ricochet. I'd heard them play on the Cruise to the Edge. We both did in, I think, 2016 or 2017. And I love a lot of that kind of music, the sort of cinematic, pulsing kind of electronic stuff. And yeah, we just had a great chemistry. And then I made several trips over the years to Berlin, usually for like 5 days or so in December. And I'd take a little system with just one of my Blade guitars, with a quad cortex bottler, sometimes with another pedal board as well, with lots of other effects, like the Meris guitar synth pedal and various sort of delays and tremolos and various other pedals. So yeah, we worked at Thorsten's studio quite a lot. And we just had a lot. We had a lot of fun doing it. We had a great musical chemistry. We got on very well on a personal level. We shared the same sort of sense of humor. Um, and yeah, it was kind of like a musical dialogue, really, between the two of us. I think we kind of inspired each other, which is a very cool feeling.
Hmm. And how much of improvisation and live playing was involved in the process, and how much programming?
Most of the initial ideas were born out of the improvisation. I think we both um, come from that background, really. I mean, a lot of the time when I'm writing, or even when I'm writing solos, they're kind of improvised, and then I have the job of going back and learning them. But with this, it was yeah, like I say, it was a conversation really. So we would start out an idea. Sometimes we'd fire up a drum loop with something like Kaleidoscope, and I'd come up with some riffs. And what started out maybe as a little bit of a joke, we called it a Friday pop song. Um, Eventually, kind of grew into something I think is quite special, really. And yeah, it just shows that kind of aspect of the band.
Mhm. And how important was the getting Alex Reeves on drums, and what he brought into the picture?
Well, I think that really transformed the album. Really, but my last trip to Berlin, December of last year, we thought, well, we should try some real drums on some of these ideas. And initially, there was a female drummer that I'd found on Facebook because she was playing a lot of Beatles stuff, but a very kind of Ringo Starr style. And we tried her on Kaleidoscope, and it was okay. Then she did couple of other tracks as well. But when we listened back to it, we thought, this is kind of crying out for someone maybe on a different level. So we looked online and we looked at loads of, cause we both know great drummers, and we kind of looked at the YouTube videos and thought, well, none of these are really kind of doing it. The only guy that I thought about using was a guy called Ash Stone, who's Trevor Horn's right hand guy, who I saw play with Tori Amos at the Royal Albert Hall, and I was really impressed with his playing. I spoke to my friend Matt Pryor, who plays guitar with Bonnie Tyler, because he does a lot of sessions and employs a lot of the top guys. And he recommended Alex. And I spoke to Alex, and he was in Australia at the time, but I sent him some of the music over, and he said he absolutely loved it. It was just his sort of thing. So we decided to try Alex. He's got his own studio in North London. Thorsten flew over from Berlin, and the two of us were in his little studio for 2 days and watched him perform the most incredible performances. Really, I mean, learning the stuff and playing it section by section, and I don't know, just a master of his craft. That's the only way you could describe it, really. And it brought a whole different dimension to the music. I think made it kind of breathe and more organic sounding and more grooving. So when we were hoping to play some shows, well, we booking some dates in December, and Alex is going to join us on drums, which is very exciting.
Wow. Actually, when I was hearing where you were talking, do you think being in one of the greatest, progressive rock bands, one of the best things of being part of it is that you probably get the chance to know the best musicians ever, and most of them they are willing to play in your projects.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there's a few world-class musicians we could have called upon, but I think Alex is a perfect choice, really. I can't imagine another player adding what he's added to this um, music, and maybe because he's not from a purely progressive background. There's some amazing progressive rock drummers, but they maybe would have felt the need to be more technical, where I think Alex's approach was a little bit more, well, what does the song need? I'm just going to do what the song needs.
Mhm. And when I listen to the album, usually when most guitarists do like their more own projects or solo projects, they tend to play a lot of solos and sometimes overplay a lot. And in your case, I think it's the opposite. Like the whole album is very musical and very melodic. And so, do you do that on purpose, or did you have the temptation to put some more solos in it?
No, I mean, this is like a musical conversation between the two of us, but the way I would approach it, I actually chopped out a load of guitar. Um, I think you've got to try and leave space in music. If you can have space in music, it means the things that do happen kind of mean more in a way. And it's true. I mean, with how I play anyway, but in terms of how I would approach this, I mean, if you can imagine, I would do maybe when I'm doing the overdubs after we've done the initial jams, I do like 3 or 4 different takes with different sounds. Like we're using different pedals. Like maybe I'm using a Eventide H90 or the Meris guitar synth pedal. And then I'd go through and just chop out little moments that I think this is a magical moment, this tiny bit here. So it becomes almost like a patchwork of sound where it goes between different things. And some of the things on the album, maybe you wouldn't even know is guitar because it's so heavily treated. But I think because I approach phrasing and melody in a different way to Thorsten, it adds to the whole kind of arrangement. And I think what we wanted to do is create something that people could like listen to on their headphones and not get bored with. You know, if it was that endless guitar solo, it's like who wants to listen to that? You know, I mean, the guitarist maybe, but you know, I've got my Ghost of Pripyat album for that. For this was more like a soundtrack to an imaginary movie.
Mhm. Yeah, related to what you're saying, I read a very good thing about you, like when I was, preparing the interview, and that they said that the greatest thing of you as a guitarist is that you always play what fits better for the song, and I think that sometimes this mentality of thinking more of a producer, not as a guitarist, makes the guitarist better. Do you think that?
I think it makes the music better for sure. Yeah, you know, you leave your ego at the door, and your first duty is to make this song as best as it can, as good as it can possibly be. So, in terms of the part you play, the sounds you use, the emotion and the melody that you try and bring to it, you know, and it's great to see when an idea can be transformed, maybe two or three guitar overdubs and little different melodies that you do that complement the vocal and weave in and out of it. For me, that's a lot more satisfying than kind of like trying to shred over something completely inappropriately.
Mhm. And when it comes to soloing, especially live, whatever it is with your projects or with Marillion, do you prefer improvising or just playing as close as you can as the albums?
I think it depends. With the Marillion songs, I think people want to hear something pretty close to the album. Yeah, because it's part of the arrangement. It's part of the music. It isn't just, you know, blowing off and improvising. You're playing melodies, and I think if that's the case, then yeah, you it's good to keep that in your mind. When I do my solo shows, I do that, but I kind of maybe improvise more around initial themes. So there's more challenging in a way. Because some nights you will be amazing and other nights you will suck. But you know, there's a challenge to that that can be quite fun.
Okay, and talking about gear, you mentioned Quad Cortex, and today there's like the digital wall, which it's great, and all the plugins, neural they do, and all this stuff. But many people prefer just like the go into an amp and tube amp and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so,
Yeah, basically, yeah, the quad cortex, because I was flying to Berlin all those times, it's great. You know, you can have it as your part of your hand baggage. Uh, and you know, it's an incredibly powerful unit for what it does. Um, it's not perfect, but it's kind of like 90% of the way there. But having said that, you know, you plug into a real amplifier with pedals and a guitar that works well in that system, and it gives you a feeling. It's an interaction you have with the instrument and the sound from the speaker and the amplifier that you can't get from a modeler of any kind. You know, by comparison, that's like it's how could you call it? It's something like a toaster. You know, it's like it does its job. But you're not going to fall in love with it. Where with the right amplifier and guitar and pedals, you fall in love with it.
well, the thing is that I think at least this happens to me, but I think that most guitarists doesn't matter the equipment we use. At the end, we always manage to get the sound we are used to play
Yeah.
in terms of EQ, overdrive thing. And I would like to know, in case of your sound, and apart from your playing, of course, but what is your secret to get the sound you like?
Um, I think starting out with a great clean sound, then experimenting with the pedals to add to that mixture to get it depends because with Marillion I use a trio, a three-channel valve preamp, which does everything. But with my solo stuff and maybe with this album more, I'd use like a clean my pitcher, which is like a Dumble clone, which has got a great clean sound with various pedals, uh, King of Tone or I don't know, all different sorts of overdrives. Sometimes something a bit more extreme, like a DS1. Um, and delay, I tend to use delays, reverbs slightly, modulation, tremolo. I love. Um, yeah, it just gives you something that you play the sound. You don't just playing the guitar. You're playing the sound. So a part that wouldn't work, or you wouldn't even come up with a straight guitar sound, can be born because you've got this thing that's creating something different. So I think it's like the guitar becomes more than just a guitar.
And after so many years playing, do you still keep like any kind of practice routine, or still try to learn some phrases or solos from other people, or you just play wherever you feel? I don't know. Please.
Yeah, over the years, I've tried to do that, and the way my style has evolved over the years, I just do what I do, and that is perfectly natural to me. Sometimes you're kind of limited by your physicality, your hand shape and size, and I remember playing with Francis Dunnery from It Bites, and his hand is literally twice the size of mine, and it you have a physical limitation sometimes as to what will work, and my hand doesn't do the giant stretches that some people's can, but I'm very good at expression and vibrato and bending, and my sense of pitch is very good. So you've kind of like got to learn what works for you. Um, and I'd rather kind of try and write than really practice scales. I mean, I do practice, especially before the concerts, because I think otherwise you tend to lose a certain amount of muscle memory and strength. Um, but yeah, I'd much rather write than practice.
Mhm. Actually, I also was listening to your album, The Ghost of Pripyat. Pripyat, I don't know how you pronounce
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I really like that album too. And
Oh,
I
cheers.
was wondering, like, what plans you have for the future? Like, are you gonna do more solo albums? Keep doing more albums with Bioscope?
Yeah, well, I've got to. Funny you should say that. Now I've finished the Bioscope album. I'm finishing another project that's been going almost as long, which is an album I'm doing with Steve Hackett, and that's about sort of 75% of the way, and I'm hoping to finish that this year. And then I've got another instrumental album that I've been doing for even longer than that, called Revan Toulet, which is a space themed instrumental album. And I'm going to finish that. And then I'm going to do another album with my band, with the Steve Rothery band. So it will happen. It just might be a little bit further down the road. So I'm never short of things to do, really. But it's really nice to have finished the Bioscope album. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great album. And I hope that you guys planning to come to play here in Europe with Bioscope.
Yes, at the moment we've got two shows in the Netherlands, two shows in Germany, and hopefully two shows in Poland in December. And I'm talking to my Spanish promoter about the possibility of Bioscope coming to Spain.
Oh, we would love that. I would really love to see that live.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, come and say hi if we do.
Yeah, of course. Of course, I will come. And you mentioned you work with Steve Hackett, and I can guess that Steve Hackett has been like a influence for you as for so many guitarists. I'd like to know, like, I mean, as well as you probably has been influential for many guitarists, which has been your main influence for you all over the years?
Well, Steve is a great one. Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd, of course, and Andy Latimer from Camel. They were probably my formative influences. I loved other people as well, but they were the ones whose there was something in their playing, the emotional intensity, the atmosphere that inspired me the most. I mean, I loved Hendrix and Santana, Jeff Beck, Larry Carlton for the more jazzy side. Um, Eddie Van Halen, especially really for his chordal work more than anything else. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have influencers. Yeah, all those you mentioned are great. And do you guys meet? I are friends with like Pink Floyd, Camel, the guys, or no?
I know Andy from Camel. Met him a few times. Yeah, we get on well. But Steve Hackett's a really good friend. Him and his wife Jo, and me and my wife Jo, we tend to meet up for dinner every few months. And like I said, we've been working on this project on and off since well, about 4 or 5 years. Um, and yeah, we're doing some more work together in the summer. I'm going to try and finish some more of my side of things here in my studio. I was been doing some recording here over the last couple of days on it. Um, so yeah, no, it's fascinating. It's yeah, he's definitely one of the most hardworking men in the music business. I mean, he's 10 years older than me, and his work rate and his touring around the world almost non-stop. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, well, I mean, for being a guitarist, you have to be a hardworking man anyway.
Yeah, yeah, especially in this day and age, where it's very hard to sell music. I mean, most people under 30 or 35 will just stream music. Very few people buy CDs anymore. But I think the live performance is something that you can't replace. And I think, there's a whole generation of musicians that are getting older and won't be doing this forever. So it's like almost like last chance to see.
Well, but right now there's two things. One is that vinyl is like coming back a little.
Yeah.
And I was talking with another musician recently, and he said that right now the very young people, like fans of the mainstream artists, like Taylor Swift or whatever, people like
Yeah.
that, they start trying buying CDs not just for playing them in the in the CD player, but because they are hearing all the time from the artists that from Spotify they don't get benefits. So
Yeah.
young people start buying CDs just to help the artists. So
That's
probably
a really healthy, yeah, it's a very healthy attitude, I think. Yeah, we've got vinyl and Blu-ray with Atmos mixers coming out in August, and the vinyl sounds fantastic. I went down to Abbey Road with Andy Bradfield, who mixed the album, and they did the half-speed mastering down there. One of their top guy. Which was a fascinating process. And it basically means that you have all the warmth in the low end and a really pristine high end. Um, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing how that sounds.
and the art cover for anyone who watched this interview, the art cover is beautiful. The from the
Oh,
album.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, that it's Simon who does a lot of the Marillion stuff. I gave him a few ideas, based on the whole theme of the album is kind of man's fascination with the moving image over the years and bioscope. It's various different meanings around the world, but one of them is this viewing device that they have. Um, Still in parts of India and Africa, where you have these like little portals that you look through and see this moving image projected. Um, so that's kind of, well, yeah, one of the themes of the album.
Wow, nice, nice to hear. And I was thinking that you have your solo projects with Bioscope and stuff, but like in soccer, sometimes people talk about one man club from these players that they played all their life in the same club. And we could say that you're like kind of a one man band because you have been in Marillion since the beginning to the day.
Yeah.
I would like to know if you could describe me a little bit how has Marillion been part of your life because you have been all your life playing the same band. So what's
Yeah, that's it. It's this will be the 46th year since I first joined Marillion, which is an eternity, and I can't believe I'm still doing it and still enjoying it and still, hopefully coming out with good work. I think you don't have any conceptions when you start out in a band of it continuing for that long. You're living in the moment. You're trying to make the best work you can. You hope that someone will enjoy it. Um, then we started to break through in the early 80s, and we got a radio session, which really helped, and then kind of led to the deal with EMI and making our first EP and our first album. Um, and it's yeah, it's been quite a journey really. And I think we've shown a different way of surviving as well. You know, what we did with crowdfunding at with the Anorexia album at the end of the 90s. You know, and we sort of set up a pattern that a lot of other musicians and artists followed since, really. And you know, in this day and age when people don't really buy much music, we're doing really well. We're one of the survivors, I think. You see a lot of the younger progressive bands, how hard they struggle to just be able to tour, never mind to release music. You know, it's difficult. You kind of have to reach a certain point, a certain threshold before you can really live as a musician and it not just be a hobby.
Mhm. And does it feel sometimes, has it become sometimes like a kind of like an office job, like, okay, I have to do this, or you still keep the same, illusion for or happiness to.
Yeah, mu music is my life. Really, it is what I live for. It's Ask my wife. I think when you're a musician, especially a professional musician for this long, you maybe become slightly dysfunctional as a human being. You know, very good at what you do, but you know the rest of life can sometimes not be a challenge. But you know, I'm not a practical person. I mean, whenever I try and do any DIY in the house. It usually goes wrong. I've learned to employ someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to that and stick to playing the guitar. I mean, I'm pretty good at photography, but that's really my only other, I'd say, main skill.
If I was thinking that now you say mention your wife, if we ask your wife, she probably would say that each amplifier or guitar you have there is like a trip to Bahamas missing.
Yeah, no, honestly, she's always been so understanding. I mean, she has to be because, like, maybe twice a week there'll be another little box that gets delivered, you know, a new pedal or something. And yeah, I've kind of promised to try and slow down. I promised that about 3 or 4 days ago, and then another pedal arrived. So it's just one of those things, you know.
Yeah,
But
we have this signals. I mean, that's like,
yeah, yeah. How many more guitars do you need? One more than I've got, you know.
yeah, we are terrible. And as you mentioned, 46 years, yeah, it's pretty soon it's gonna come like half century from Marillion history. So I guess you guys will plan something special. I don't know if you can give us some preview of something you.
We don't tend to look that far into the future. I mean, our priority at the moment is going back in the studio in August and finishing the new Marillion album, and hopefully that will come out sometime next year, hopefully in early or late summer. Um, we're doing Cruise to the Edge next year again in March. I'm hoping to do some more Bioscope shows next year. We got, I think, some German shows in the summer. Um, and the following year we'll do another set of Marillion weekends. So we'll hopefully play Girona again because that was a great success. Um, and you know, it's hard to see much beyond that. I'd like to think, yeah, we're going to celebrate that 50th anniversary. That would be a really cool thing to celebrate.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think so. And
Yeah, definitely.
you were talking about crowdfunding, which has been very important for you guys. What do you think, or how do you relate to the social media and Instagram, Facebook, all these things? Do you use it yourself, or?
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's sort of changed and evolved, I suppose, over the years. Facebook is maybe a little bit more difficult than it used to be because they want to charge you for everything you want to do in terms of promoting your music. Um, I think YouTube's still very important for reaching new people. The problem is there's so much new music released every day that I think people can get swamped by it. So cutting through, you know, unless you are a Taylor Swift, cutting through to the majority of people is pretty difficult these days. I think traditional media still has an important role to play, and social media can help. Um, but you know, let's face it. I mean, most kids these days, it's all about TikTok.
Yeah, I know. Thanks so much for the interview. It's been a pleasure, and I really hope you come to play to Madrid so I can come see you.
Yeah, that would be great. Come and say hi, definitely.
Yeah, definitely will. Thanks so much.
Okay, cheers. Take care.